In 2001, the U.S. Secretary of Defense stood before the press and admitted that $2.3 trillion in Pentagon transactions could not be accounted for. The number was so large, so surreal, that reporters barely knew what to ask. The world's biggest budget had a hole the size of a continent. The emotional echo was disbelief, the pride of a superpower, the pain of uncertainty, the shock of realizing that money could simply vanish. But this was only the beginning. In the decades that followed, trillions more would disappear from global ledgers, lost in the shadows of offshore banking, hidden in the labyrinth of derivatives, siphoned through black budgets and secret accounts. The world's money was missing, and no one could agree where it went. A single press conference revealed a hole in the world's biggest budget. How do trillions vanish in plain sight? The answer is in the way modern finance, secrecy, and power have fused into a system where money can move anywhere and disappear everywhere. The panic of 1929, the scandals of the 1980s, the uncertainty of every modern financial crisis. Each time, leaders promised transparency. Each time the rules changed and the dominoes fell faster. The contrast is stark. While the world's wealth grows on paper, the real money slips through cracks no one can see. But to see how the money started slipping away, we need to go back to the first cracks in the global system. In the 1980s, Wall Street's skyscrapers glowed late into the night. The world's financial system was being rewired, not by governments, but by bankers, lawyers, and traders who saw opportunity in the shadows. The term shadow banking was born, a vast, unregulated world of money market funds, hedge funds, and off-balance sheet vehicles that moved trillions beyond the reach of traditional oversight. The emotional energy was electric. New financial products, derivatives like swaps, options, and futures, let banks and funds bet on everything from interest rates to weather. The profits were enormous. The risks were hidden. The world's money was no longer just in vaults or on ledgers. It was in contracts, algorithms, and offshore accounts. London S City and New York, S Wall Street, became the twin engines of this new system. The euro-dollar market exploded, letting dollars flow outside U.S. control. Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Jersey became household names for anyone moving serious money. The emotional echo was greed and anxiety, the pride of innovation, the pain of knowing that the system was growing more complex and more fragile. Regulatory arbitrage became the game. Banks and funds shopped for the friendliest rules, setting up subsidiaries in places with the loosest oversight. The line between legal and illegal blurred. The world's wealthiest learned to move money through shell companies, trusts, and secret accounts. The system was built on trust until it wasn't. By the early 2000s, shadow banking had grown to rival the size of the traditional banking system. The global derivatives market reached hundreds of trillions in notional value. The emotional toll was mounting. The pride of a booming market, the pain of sudden loss, the shock of seeing fortunes vanish in a single day. How did Wall Street invent money that regulators couldn't see? Why did every new product make the system more fragile? The answer is in the way financial innovation, secrecy, and the hunger for yield can turn a system into a powder keg. But the real vanishing act began when the world's wealthiest started moving money offshore. In the 1990s, a new kind of financial secrecy took hold. The world's richest families, corporations, and politicians began moving money through a labyrinth of offshore accounts, shell companies, and secret trusts. The names were exotic: Cayman Islands, Panama, British Virgin Islands, but the game was simple. Hide wealth, dodge taxes, and shield assets from prying eyes. The emotional impact was envy and suspicion. Leaked documents, the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, revealed how presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs stashed fortunes offshore. The term tax haven became a symbol of a system where the rules were different for the powerful. In Zurich and Singapore, private bankers whispered about numbered accounts and discreet clients. In London and New York, lawyers built webs of shell companies, each one a layer of secrecy. Beneficial ownership, the true identity behind a company or trust, was hidden behind nominees, proxies, and legal fictions. Regulators struggled to keep up. The emotional echo was frustration. The pride of building wealth, the pain of seeing it vanish into the shadows, the shock of realizing that the world's richest could play by their own rules. Capital flight became a global phenomenon. In Russia, oligarchs moved billions out of the country as the Soviet Union collapsed. In China, tycoons funneled money through Hong Kong and the Caribbean. In Africa and Latin America, dictators and business elites siphoned off aid and oil revenues, leaving their countries poorer and more indebted. The numbers were staggering. By the 2010s, estimates of offshore wealth ranged from $8 trillion to $36 trillion, enough to buy every company in the S&P 500. The emotional toll was outrage, the pride of nations, the pain of inequality, the shock of seeing schools and hospitals starved while fortunes grew in secret. How did the world's richest hide their fortunes from the law? What happens when capital flees the system that created it? The answer is in the way secrecy, power, and global finance have fused into a system where money can move anywhere and disappear everywhere. But the missing trillions aren't just about tax evasion, they're about power, secrecy, and the new rules of global finance. In 1945, as World War II ended and the Cold War began, a new kind of money vanished into the shadows. The United States, flush with victory and wary of new threats, created the world's first true black budget, a pool of funds hidden from public view, spent on secret weapons, covert operations, and intelligence networks that spanned the globe. The emotional impact was awe and suspicion. In Washington, Congress approved billions for national security with little oversight. The CIA, NSA, and Pentagon built empires of secrecy. The term off-ledger became a reality. Money moved through accounts that never appeared in official budgets, spent on projects the public would never see. The national security exception justified it all. Presidents and generals argued that secrecy was essential. Spy satellites, stealth bombers, and secret bases in the Arctic and the Pacific were paid for with money that left no trace. The emotional echo was fear, the pride of a nation defending itself, the pain of knowing that democracy's books would never truly balance. But the black budget was not just an American invention. The Soviet Union, China, Britain, and France all built their own secret funds. Dictators and democracies alike learned to hide money for wars, coups, and influence campaigns. The world's money map became a patchwork of visible and invisible flows. How much of the world's money is spent in the dark? Why do democracies tolerate budgets no one can audit? The answer is in the way power, secrecy, and the logic of security can justify almost anything. The emotional toll was distrust. The public, told to trust but never verify, grew wary. Scandals erupted. Missing billions in Iraq, secret prisons, arms deals gone wrong. Each time the world's leaders promised transparency. Each time the rules changed and the dominoes fell faster. But the vanishing trillions aren't just a Western story, they're a global phenomenon. In Lagos, a new hospital stands half finished, its windows boarded up, its wards empty. The money for its construction, millions in international development aid, has vanished. In Caracas, oil revenues disappear into offshore accounts while blackouts roll through the city. In Kinshasa, a government minister's mansion gleams above the slums. The world's poorest countries are bleeding billions, not just to poverty, but to corruption and capital flight. The emotional impact is outrage and resignation. Every year, the Global South loses more to illicit financial flows than it receives in foreign aid. The numbers are staggering. The United Nations estimates that Africa alone loses over $88 billion a year to hidden transfers, shell companies, and secret deals. The emotional echo is betrayal, the pride of new nations, the pain of old debts, the shock of seeing hope siphoned away. The term kleptocracy, rule by thieves, becomes a lived reality. Politicians and business elites siphon off aid, loans, and resource revenues. The money is laundered through London, Dubai, and Zurich, hidden behind layers of shell companies and trusts. The people pay the price. Schools without books, hospitals without medicine, roads that crumble before they're finished. Development aid, meant to build futures, often ends up in Swiss banks. The World Bank and IMF, meant to help, sometimes enable the cycle, demanding reforms that open the door to new forms of extraction. The emotional toll is exhaustion, the hope of progress, the pain of seeing it stolen, the shock of realizing that the system is rigged. How did aid meant for schools and hospitals end up in Swiss banks? What happens when the world's poorest pay the price for the richest? The answer is in the way global finance, secrecy, and power have fused into a system where money can move anywhere and disappear everywhere. But the digital age has created new ways for money to vanish, faster than ever before. In 2016, a single cyber attack drained $81 million from Bangladesh's central bank. Vanished in hours, routed through casinos in Manila, never to be recovered. The world's money had entered a new era, the age of digital disappearance. The emotional impact was disbelief and fear. Hackers, once dismissed as lone wolves, now operated as global syndicates. Ransomware attacks locked hospitals and city governments out of their own systems, demanding payment in Bitcoin. The term crypto laundering became a new kind of nightmare. Billions in stolen or illicit funds washed through digital wallets, tumbling services, and decentralized exchanges. The rise of digital assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins, promised a new kind of money, borderless, fast, and beyond the reach of any single government. For some, it was liberation. For others, it was a black hole. The emotional echo was hope and anxiety, the pride of innovation, the pain of seeing fortunes lost to a forgotten password or a hacked exchange. Payment networks like PayPal, Alipay, and Venmo moved trillions with a swipe, but every new channel became a new risk. Regulators scrambled to keep up. The world's central banks debated digital currencies, hoping to build trust in a system that was moving faster than the law. How did hackers steal billions with a single keystroke? Is digital money the world's new black hole? The answer is in the way technology, secrecy, and speed have fused to create a system where money can move anywhere and disappear everywhere. Now, the world's regulators are racing to catch up, but the money keeps moving. In 1945, as Allied troops closed in on Berlin, Nazi officials loaded crates of gold onto trucks and trains, scattering the Reich's stolen wealth across Europe. Some of it resurfaced in Swiss banks, some in South American vaults, much of it lost to history. The world's first global manhunt for missing money had begun. The Cold War brought new forms of financial secrecy. The CIA and KGB funneled billions through slush funds and front companies, funding coups, revolutions, and secret wars. The emotional echo was suspicion, the pride of superpowers, the pain of proxy conflicts, the shock of learning that money could be as powerful as missiles. In the 1990s, as the Soviet Union collapsed, Russian oligarchs moved hundreds of billions out of the country. The term capital flight became a daily headline. Swiss and Cypriot banks filled with the spoils of privatization. The emotional toll was betrayal, the hope of a new era, the pain of seeing national wealth vanish overnight. Today, the tools have changed, but the pattern remains. Digital assets, offshore trusts, and shell companies have replaced gold bars and suitcases of cash. The economic term money laundering is no longer just about criminals. It oests about the world elite, moving money through a system designed for opacity. The flight to safety is now a click away. In every crisis, money flees to the next safe haven, whether it's a Swiss vault, a Singapore trust, or a cold wallet on a blockchain. The emotional echo is timeless. The panic of 1929, the gold runs of the 1930s, the uncertainty of every modern crisis. Each time, leaders promise transparency. Each time, the rules change and the dominoes fall faster. Are today's missing trillions just history repeating in new forms? What did past scandals teach that today's leaders keep forgetting? The answer is in the way every system, no matter how advanced, is haunted by the need for trust and the temptation of secrecy. So what can you do as the next trillion quietly slips away? The mystery of the world. Vanishing trillions is not just a story of numbers lost in cyberspace or gold bars hidden in vaults. It is a warning, etched in the ledgers of every failed bank, every collapsed regime, every family that woke up to find their savings gone. The emotional echo is timeless, the pride of a nation at its peak, the pain of collapse, the shock of waking up to new rules. Every era has its vanishing act. In the 1920s, fortunes disappeared in the crash. In the 1940s, gold vanished into secret trains and Swiss accounts. In the 1990s, oligarchs and dictators moved billions out of reach. Today, the cycle repeats, only faster, and on a scale the world has never seen. The lesson is clear. Trust is the real currency. Money, whether gold, dollars, or digital tokens, is only as strong as the system that protects it and the vigilance of those who watch it. Secrecy can protect, but it can also corrode. The cost of easy money is not just measured in inflation or debt, but in the fragility of the system itself. Will you be ready when the next fortune disappears? Will you recognize the signals before the headlines hit? The answers are hidden in the past, if you know where to look. Don't assume the rules of money and power are set in stone. Watch for the signals: rising debt, sudden deals, the quiet transfer of strategic assets. Pay attention to the canaries, gold flows, new alliances, and the fine print in every contract. In every reset, someone is early, someone is late, and someone never even realizes a reset happened. Will you be ready when the next vanishing act begins? Will you recognize the signals before the headlines hit? Subscribe for more cinematic economic history, and learn how to spot the next vanishing act before it hits.